question, and it gives you a question that should mirror the way the PMP exam would be written. And so you get to go through up to 175 questions, just like the exam, and test your knowledge, and it keeps track of your scores for you. So I just finished a graduate certificate program in project management to qualify to take the exam, and I want to make sure I'm ready when test day comes. So I'm going to study. You can study with me if you're going for your PMP exam. Hopefully this is helpful. Otherwise, I hope you just get a chance to relax, listen to me whisper. That was my ankle, oh my gosh. Listen to me whisper, and maybe doze off to sleep to some really long-winded questions with multiple choice answers. So, I hope you enjoy. I'm going to switch over to the screen recording. Alright, so here is the PMI Infinity ChatGPT bot. And it says, explore 175 interactive questions and instantly uncover the intricacies of each response. Deepen your understanding of project management concepts to get you ready for the project management sounds kind of sassy, like, hey, you remember the scope, right? But I think, it wouldn't be sassy. It would just be like, hey, just so you know, that's not necessarily within the original scope. So I would have to initiate, a change request and let them know what that's going to entail. Okay, let's see. So, answer C. Reject the stakeholders' requests immediately. Okay, no, I doubt that's the case, especially without any communication first. Alright, and then approve the changes to maintain their satisfaction. That's not a good idea, because as you can tell from the answer in question, the answer for B, the change control process is really important, according to PMI, right? In one of the courses I took preparing for this exam, they really emphasized in every question you should imagine adding according to PMI, right? Like there's the real world and then there's the exam. And hopefully there's not too much difference in how you do business, but think about this as according to PMI, what should I do next? So, remind the stakeholder of the scope and refer them to the change control process seems right to me. Yay! Okay, 2 for 2. Alright. So, when a stakeholder requests changes that fall outside of the approved scope, the project manager should politely remind them of the agreed upon scope and direct them to the formal change control process. This ensures changes are properly evaluated for impact on time, cost, and quality before approval, maintaining project integrity. Project integrity. Great. Okay, I'm ready for the next question. Question 3. During a sprint review, a stakeholder expresses concern that the delivered product increment does not meet their expectations. Okay, so now we're kind of thinking agile, scrum methodology, okay? What should the project manager do first? Okay, so we're in a sprint review, which means we've already done the sprint and hopefully implemented the features that were in the product backlog for that sprint, or the sprint backlog. And now's the chance for the stakeholder to review what we've done and give us their feedback. So, that's just to set the stage. So, in that feedback they said, we have not met their expectations. What do we do first? Explain that the requirements were already approved and cannot be changed. That is the most anti-agile answer I've ever heard. Okay, B. Ask the stakeholder submit a change request for the next sprint. Okay, this is like less anti-agile, but still this is the likely next action. Implement the planned risk response and update the risk register. That sounds about right, actually. And then D is escalate the issue to the project sponsor. Yeah, no, I don't think that's the next thing. Yeah, I think if a risk occurs, the first thing you want to do is say, hey, we planned for this, let's get it going. And then updating the risk register is that form of communication to your stakeholders, so let's see if that's correct. Oh, yes. Alright. So when a risk occurs and a response strategy was already prepared, the next step is just to implement that planned response. Great. So we also update the risk register to reflect the status and any additional actions. Alright, so we're moving right along, and ChatGPT has complimented me and said that I'm demonstrating strong PMP knowledge. Thank goodness. I've spent a lot of time learning this stuff, so I'm glad it's paying off. Alright, next. Great momentum. I love how it's trying to hype me up. Alright. A project is in the closing phase, okay? The project manager wants to ensure, hey, that's me, hopefully. The project manager wants to ensure all deliverables meet the acceptance criteria. The acceptance criteria means that the customer will say, yep, I'm good with that. I will sign off and say, that's good, that's what I asked for. In super duper layman's terms. Okay. What should the project manager do? A. Conduct a lessons learned session with the team. That's probably not a bad idea, but that's not going to help us answer the acceptance criteria question. Review the work performance data for quality control. I feel like okay, this one feels a little tricky. Review the work performance data for quality control. I mean, yeah. Okay, I'm clearly struggling. Let's see what's the rest. Obtain formal acceptance from the customer or sponsor. That feels right. Because, but I feel like B and C kind of work together. Like you should be always reviewing So there's a new risk, and it could delay delivery. Inform the sponsor immediately. I don't think so. Add the risk to the risk register and assess its impact. That sounds more like the right next step. Rebaseline the schedule to account for the delay. I wouldn't do that first, right? You want to add it to the register, assess the impact, and then you can deal with that. Hold an emergency meeting to revise the entire project plan. That's absurd, okay? You just gotta take it one step at a time. Add it to the risk register, assess the impact, rebaseline if you need to, and if it is project altering, then sure. Also inform the sponsor that will happen, but I think you go with the processed first. And correct once again. Outstanding. I've got no complaints so far. I'm very proud of myself. Yay, yay, yay. Okay. When a new risk is identified during execution, the project manager should first document it in the risk register and perform the qualitative and or quantitative analysis to assess its probability and impact. This forms the basis for determining an appropriate response strategy. Alright, let's keep it going. I can't believe this. This is the best I've ever done, so I'm really, really happy. Alright. A project sponsor requests an additional feature close to the end of the project. What should the project manager do first? Okay, it's close to the end and they say, hey, I want a new feature. Okay, reject the request due to time constraints. So I don't know if this is a great idea. It depends on how rigid your contract is and all of that. So if the customer's like, I really want this feature, you want to be like, nope. Your schedule says you wanted this product by yesterday and I'm not going to give it to you tomorrow just to add what you want. That's crazy, right? So if you think about it like that, A, does not make sense. B, implement the feature to maintain sponsor satisfaction. Okay, maybe, right? But it's asking what to do first. So A, no, because you need to have a conversation. B, no, because you need to have a conversation. C, evaluate the impact and follow the change control process. There is a pattern here, right, on how you are supposed to do things according to PMI. Evaluate. Have the discussion. Follow the process. So C is sounding correct so far. D, update the scope statement and inform the team. Again, that may happen later, but first, evaluate everything. Follow the process. So C. Alright, we are moving on. So even if the request comes from the sponsor, you must evaluate the impact on the scope crash the schedule. B. Resequence activities using fast tracking. This is probably, unlikely to fix anything, because if we're already behind schedule, then the critical path actions, which is the longest time when you add all the dependencies up where you can't start whatever next thing until the previous thing is done and all of that. So when you lay all of that out, it sounds to me like the critical path is already behind schedule. So resequencing things and being able to do two things at the same time, it doesn't account for the dependencies that are already in place. So I don't think that's gonna help. C. Analyze the critical path to explore schedule compression options. I was really leaning toward A, right? But C sounds more like the first thing. So first we analyze the situation. Which nodes on that network diagram showing the critical path? Which nodes should we throw resources at to crash? Which nodes can be fast-tracked, etc.? So actually, A could be right after we do C. Or D, request an extension. That's silly because they literally said they want it on time. So we're gonna go with C. That was a fun one. Alright, analyze the critical path. This is where you want to read all of the questions and answers first, because I was so ready to just click A. But before deciding on any schedule compression techniques like crashing or fast tracking, you must first analyze the critical path. This helps identify where compression is actually possible and what the implications might be. It's a necessary first step to ensure any changes will effectively address the delay. That's 19 out of 19. You're showing the mindset of a certified PMP. Yay, now all I need to do is actually become a certified PMP. Great. Okay, let's do question 20. Okay. During a status meeting, a key stakeholder expresses dissatisfaction with the current project direction. What should the project manager do first? Okay, so key stakeholder is dissatisfied with the direction. A. Defend the project team's decisions and progress. I don't know, the key stakeholder, it's them that we want to be happy. I don't want to just be right just to be right. B. Escalate the issue to the project sponsor. This is hardly ever the answer, right? C. Listen to the stakeholders' concerns and seek to understand the root cause. Yes, that sounds good. D. Ask the stakeholders to submit concerns in writing after the meeting. Yeah, that's kind of shady, honestly. And maybe you could do that after C. But yeah, C again. Perfect choice. Perfect choice. Great. Okay. Alright, when a stakeholder raises concerns, the project manager's first responsibility is to actively listen and seek to understand what's driving the dissatisfaction.